Morning, everybody. Happy still March. Hopefully soon warmer weather is coming. It's good to see everybody for the March office hours. Today we're going to be talking more about subjects. Today's focus is going to be more on artist names, Library of Congress names, and very importantly, geographic names. And we're going to wrap in some of the geography heading page from the system as well, and a couple of pitfalls with that. We've gone over geography with that before, but this is kind of also going to hit on why you might want to use the subject's geography versus the geography link. You can always do both, that's fine. And putting geography notes in is always good as well. So mention this briefly. If anyone has any questions that come up, like even from the previous discussions on subject headings, holler it out, throw it in the chat. If anything comes up, I already had one question that I think we might hit on an answer to partway through this as one of the little tips and tricks parts of it. So let's go to a random thing. I'm actually going to go to I'm in the sandbox, but I'm actually going to go into Fairfield as usual. And I'll hop back and forth between the two systems like I normally do, partially because when I was looking today, I realized there's not a lot of photos in the sandbox to make it useful. And sometimes that is something that's really useful when talking about geography stuff. So let me hop into Fairfield and I'll just go into still images just for kicks. So like photos, because honestly, that's the time where I tend to use geography things much more than some of the other items, because we may know that an item is from Fairfield, which is great, or we may know that it's from Fairfield County. In this instance, insert your institution here, but we may not know exactly, or we may just know that something is Connecticut that we want to add in. We have a bunch of like flood pictures and things like that. When you go into a record, I don't think I have any good. No, we can go to Mill River kind of thing. So when you want to add a subject heading in geography related items, you want to narrow it down to, you can still say broad. You don't always have to pinpoint everything. Your point is to be able to go to the portal when your stuff is public, because you want to be able to find this stuff for yourselves. If you've got an exhibit coming up, or if you've got questions from somebody, you want to be able to pinpoint it as much as possible. But you also, if you're on the portal, want people to be able to see the location of something, possibly on a map. So we've got this image in Fairfield that's Mill River. You can see a house, you can see the flooding, which is really interesting. So in the subjects for this, and some of these I haven't looked at, so I don't know what I'm going to find. So we don't have any subjects in here yet. We want to put that this is, I'm actually going to put floods in Library of Congress since we're here. We'll recap from the last couple of weeks. This will get us kind of the flooding part. And, oh, actually, let me say floods, because I think we talked about last time that the plural is always the thing to use in Library of Congress, usually in TGN too. So I usually start out not doing the plural, and then if it doesn't find anything, then I start adding the S or putting a space or something after it. Something makes me think it's floods and flooding. Damage, river. So this is where we also go to actual Getty and look it up just for kicks while we're here. And I didn't have art and architecture. We're going to come back to this screen in a second, but I didn't have AAT open, or actually Library of Congress open. Sorry, I do have Library of Congress open. I will try to remember to send you guys out the links to some of these pages to go and look things up, because this page, for one, from Library of Congress, I find this the easiest one to use, but it's not easy to find if you go onto Library of Congress's site. Okay, here we go. Floods, the authority records here. And this is also fun to look around. I'm actually going to, because there was a lot, I'm going to copy the number and the term. And this is actually a really specific thing to this too. That's another tip, and it's weird, and I don't know why it does this. So if you go in and copy in, and this is like a don't jump ahead thing, if you copy in this, it doesn't like the space in between the SH and the number. So you can't move the cursor over to delete it. You have to arrow over. This is such a weird little thing, and I don't know why it does this. You have to arrow over the cursor and then delete it, and then you see it comes up. Why you would know this or figure this out, I don't know. It's just something to know. The other thing I would wonder if we tried floods and a space, if it would come up a little bit easier. Yeah, see, if you do the space after it and you're not adding another word or looking for other things, it pops right up. So that was your recap over the last two sessions. A couple of things. So talking about geographic names. So we want to put in here that, and this is another like tip trick thing and kind of a bug in the way some of this works. And I don't necessarily know that it's a bug in our collective access. It might just be between the relationship. If you look for Getty Thesaurus of geographic names and put in Fairfield, and it looks, and you can go all the way down all of these. And if you really look, we'll look at the main page to see the breakdown. If you look at this, you'll not be able to find actual Fairfield in Fairfield County in Connecticut. So this one you see Fairfield, Connecticut, but if you look at the end, it mentions that it's a county, which is great because if we knew that something was in the county but not sure what town, I would select this. The farther down you go, we can scroll all day, you're not going to find Fairfield, Connecticut. Why? I don't know. This is another, it's easier to find the number, and I actually have this as a shortcut on my machine at the museum. I've got it in one of like the sticky notes that you can put on your desktop, and I'll do it on here if I share this. Let me do a share of the whole entire thing, my whole entire page, because I had one up from before that I just have like a little post-it off to the side with the name, so I can just copy paste into that. Fairfield, that's the county. This should be actual Fairfield. So if I put this in here, Fairfield, Connecticut. Why? I don't know. So far I've only found a couple places that do that. Fairfield's one. I think Southport, Connecticut doesn't show up. So a lot of the time I'll kind of include that in Fairfield under this type of thing. Or I'll just put Fairfield County for places like that. If you put in like Hartford, that shows up. And again, this is like everybody. So sometimes even if you know it's going to show up, it's easier just to go and look up the number first and look at it, especially if it's something that is going to show up a lot in your system. So I've got Hartford, Connecticut counties. And I know Hartford's down here, but I'm not going to torture all you guys with looking. Oh, you've got like East Hartford, Connecticut places. Okay, great. So you can do it that way too. So to go under Getty's thing, let me just go back to my window here so it's not too much stuff going on. So the overall Getty Institute site gives you Getty vocabularies, and it talks about the vocabularies, what they are, gives you an overview of things, each of the different types of things that we have on our systems that we can link to and why you should use them. So let me go to the Thesaurus of geographic names. So if I search for Fairfield here and just click search, you can narrow it by place type or nation, and you can do kind of a lookup for that. Depending on what you're looking for, you don't always need it. It does kind of have that same hierarchical thing as the classifications do, the AAT part does. So when you go down and go, okay, look, we're in Fairfield. Oh, wait, Ireland, County Galway. Nope, that's not what we want. We're going to keep looking until we get to Fairfield, Connecticut. Because as you can see, there's a lot of Fairfields out there. Finally, we get down to here in Fairfield County. You know what? This is close enough because we can do that. I think this is the one we want, but I'm just saying as an example, because it has that hierarchical thing, you can click on that little triangle, the little pyramid, and this will show you everything that's listed under the county. This is actually also handy if you have certain things like rivers or lakes that you want to put in that are in the county. I don't know if Mill River's in here. I haven't looked. Mill Plain. Mill River's not in there, so that's interesting. But we go down and we can find actual Fairfield here. And that gives you Fairfield, an inhabited place, as opposed to Fairfield, the county, where you can either copy this or you know that it's there and you know what you're looking for to put it into the system. So we've already got that in there. And I don't know, I'm going to look for rivers too, just for kicks, because I haven't for this. I'm going to go back to new search for this. Now I'm going to actually see if I can narrow it by nation. If you try to track down and go through the entire hierarchy for everything to get to your place, this is so weirdly organized sometimes that it'll take you forever. I'm going to go to United States. In place type, I wonder if I haven't done this in ages. If it has like rivers. We'll go river and see what it does. So now we've got all of this in and search and can go from here. And this is when you go through and you're like, oh, okay, we're suddenly in Mass, Maine, as you scroll down, Vermont, general North and Central America, which is interesting. Oh, now we've got, oh, that's somebody else. That's another name for it. Connecticut, Fairfield County. And since we didn't see it in that other hierarchy, I doubt it's going to be in here, but it was just interesting to look. But if we wanted to put, I'm kind of curious about this one. So we're not even adding it, but we're seeing like what the information is about this, because it gives you Latin long, what it's also known as. I may look this up later, but I kind of want to add it. And we'll look it up later and see if it's actually like a previous name for it. So with this one, with the Fairfield part of it, you can also put these in geography. So there's a couple different ways to do things. A lot of the time I will put just things in the geographic notes, so it should come up in searches and things, but especially one like this, if I don't know exactly where this is, or if I haven't gotten a chance to talk to our one of my education people who could probably pinpoint this for me, I'm not necessarily going to drop a pin on the map for this. And for some reason, I don't know where the map center shows up. Okay, yeah, it's way over in Africa. So you can either put something in the search box, or you can move the map around and do a control plus key, zoom key to get in. So I can narrow it down to where I'm going. Because it's a river, it's going all the way along. I think this is Mill River over here. Or it might be over on this, I'm not sure. I don't know if it'll show up if I do this, but we don't know where it is along the river. In theory, and we've kind of talked about this before, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you can put like a block or a circle on something and say like, oh my God, it's this whole area. Kind of useful, especially if you're seeing like a flooding or something like that, or you can move this and edit it. if you've gone in and you realize you're not in the right place, you could put it over here, something like that. Now, this is a pretty big geographic area. It kind of gets a little bit, it's almost a little bit too much. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to zoom in. A bunch of ponds. So like if I had pond space or something, I might want to do a circle and just say it's somewhere in this pond, or if it's a view of the pond, something like that might be useful. I'm trying to do a whole big block or even like a square. This guy, clear all. Playing with these takes a little bit sometimes. I can do the lines, the shape I haven't quite figured out yet. The square a little bit more. If there's something you can fit into a square, use the square, but also keep in mind how it's going to look on the portal when you get to that. I'm going to go give an example in a second. So for this one, for this particular river scene, I'm going to say view along the Mill River, exact location unknown, needs research, where I need to go talk to my guy. Just so we have information and that somebody has kind of looked at it and said, oh, I don't really know where this is on Mill River. I'm going to put, I don't think it's going to show up here, but we'll try it. So unlike the other subject headings, if you're doing the georeference, you do need to click the little arrow to get it to start searching. And this will come in and it's got, but we have to, it came to a spot, but we want to double check where it is before we drop anything. It put us somewhere up towards like Cheshire and Wallingford. So that's not where we want to be. So we're not going to use that specifically. And this is something that I probably would not circle or do just because I'm really not sure where exactly this is, but I've got the general terms to get us there. Something like, and I looked at this before, and this will actually help us with editing too. So we've got an old academy building in Fairfield that we have several postcards and pictures of over the years. And you can see it here. This is just getting a bunch of different things that mention Old Academy. I want to go to media. I'll do Has Media. There's not many that don't for this one. I also want to go to titles, because a lot of them are just called like Old Academy. Old Academy School, Old Academy Class, Old Academy Fairfield, which is interesting. So this is something we want to think about. If I want all of mine to show up, depending on what they're called, I might want to tweak my titles a little bit, but I'm going to go to Old Academy School. And so there's a bunch here. And actually, let me jump over to one other thing really quickly. So if we go to the portal and we're here at the portal, we want to search. Searching 2-word things, put it in quotes, even on this. It's mentioned in like the notes about how to search on this. I know nobody's going to read that. And I don't mean you guys, I mean like general public's not going to read it, but that's fine. It'll still find it eventually. So Old Academy, we'll see what we have on there. So there's a couple of, I know these are Fairfields. There's a couple other ones. I'm going to go full results. We're going to skip, not talk about necessarily archives for now, although the subjects will apply to that. Full results for Old Academy. And just for kicks. Oh, and I put this, I'd already been playing with this a little bit. This is the natural way that the portal is set up to show results, is this kind of block thing. So when you hover over, it'll make the images a little bit bigger, or if they're really long ones like this, you'll be able to see the long version. You can change this up at the top to this version, which is a little bit more information, but not really much. It's just a different format because it's still showing it's the Old Academy School from Fairfield and showing some of the places. However, if you go to this little globe and click on that, you'll get a map and you'll see different results in different places with the little numbers in here. And you can use that control zoom again to zoom into places. And right now we've got, so actually because I stare across the green from my office all the time, I know where the old Academy building is. It's actually over here. And the problem with our little building is it was moved at one point. So it used to actually be over here where this dot is. And now it's over here where this is, or not the building department. It's over here across from this one. So when I go into, this is also, there's a couple things that I have need to be tweaked in the portal, and I'm not sure this used to work, and I don't know what happened, if it was an update and we have to have Worley go work on it at some point. Because in theory, if you go in and click on this, you should see the image pop up that you're looking at of that building, not just the Latin long. So this happened probably a couple months ago, and this has been, because I don't know that many people find that map option. So this has been kind of down on my list of stuff to have him fix. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it though. Because one other thing I want to mention while we're here about using the mapping tools and the pins and the drops and everything, this is a really good thing to use if you've got a specific picture of a specific building, to be able to zoom in and see that we've got a bunch of stuff around here. And once we get everything clicked on that building, it'll show up a little bit more. But in general, anything you'll see that has that old Academy shows up with this little circle and a number. And when you zoom in, that's when it kind of splits off to where things are. Again, no fun with the pictures not showing it. But it'll say how many images are in this place. So even if you went on and said, just did a search on Fairfield and go to the full results, this is all still on the portal, and go to, I have no idea what the Spain thing is, interesting, and go to the map, you zoom and you see there's 282 things that are marked as having a map location. And as you zoom in, you see further out where things are. And we did a lot, we have a lot of photos of the historic houses around town. So when I had an intern working on this, I had her like pinpointing where all these places were. So it'll be easier to find them. And you can see that we've got a lot of things around our old burying ground, a lot around these streets. And you see these little brackets too. You might wonder what that is. That actually is from doing, back to Fairfield's page. Oops. That's the image. I want to see the whole record. This is from doing in the geography, doing these boxes and things and circles and circling around. Again, this is kind of okay if you have kind of a general idea, because we've done this with a few beach scenes that we know something is either on Fairfield Beach or Jennings Beach, and I just had her do like the shoreline. So this will come up here, but in general, the lines and the dots, you want to do that for a little bit more specific things, and I will show you exactly why. If we search for everything on the portal and we do the objects, full results, and then we go to the map, this is kind of becomes unusable if you do whole entire giant places. So some people in their records have said it's in the United States somewhere. We're not sure, but I'm going to draw an entire block around the United States. And you end up with these ginormous big blocks that you can barely catch. And this is, if you click on one, it's not really, again, it's the issue with not linking to a thing right now, but I wonder if it does. not linking to a thing, but they're not really super useful to just say, this is in the US somewhere in this instance. This is much more useful when you're coming down to really specific locations. Like somewhere along the line, people have stuff that are up in like New Hampshire and Vermont and Boston and places like that. So that's kind of interesting if this was, if we knew that was working. But doing those whole big blocks, really not useful. And you can see that people have done New England kind of thing. People have done Connecticut. And that's a case where subject headings and the geographic subject headings are going to be a little bit more useful than just doing it this way. Because this is when you're going by your filter here and you've got places showing up and you can go in and look at it this way and just do, I don't know if anyone's done New England. Because again, a lot of these are just going to be Fairfield stuff, and I don't know if I've put New England in anything. Let's go to New Britain, see if what shows up from here. Next. One result that we can't see, so that's fine. I think if we go to this, we might be able to see it. Go to the block. Okay, it's a newspaper about death of McKinley. Okay, from the Britain Herald. So there's some tweaks with the mappy bit to work out when it's working and actually comes out really useful to be able to pinpoint a specific place. But this is the case for using the geographic names versus always feeling like you have to put a pin on the map. And it's one of the things just in general about using this. There's a lot of fields. Don't feel like you need to put something in every single field. Oh, in that geography bit too with the notes, a lot of the time I will add, yeah, like this one we put in Old Post Road. So that's kind of a thing for that. And I will put in like something is made in New England, made in Vermont, made in New Hampshire. So there's a little bit more context. In theory, that might be something that shows up in description or in public access description, but it doesn't hurt to just put it here. This is not public, this notes thing. So for something really specific, you would want to put in the record, in the description, this was made in Vermont or something. This geographic notes is more just for you. One thing I was going to do with this guy or one of these. So because this building was moved, like this one I know is before the move. And this is sometimes when you go in with tricky records, if you've got interns working on something and you've stared at a picture for a million years, you know exactly where this is, what it is and everything, but they're relying on basic research and they don't necessarily have all the information. So in this one, like she put that it was over here in between the old location, that's fine. This one is, even though the picture looks kind of older, this is after it's been moved. So this technically is not here anymore. This is over in this little spot here. So if you find something like this that you need to just tweak, you can click the little edit button, it highlights it, and you can slide this over and move it. So I know this is now here, and then click the save. So in theory, this would show up on our portal as being in that spot. I have put, I think this is in the same place. Yeah, because there's no street, there's just this tree right in front. So another, again, this is another edit of, I'm just dragging this over here. I have done for places like this that are on our green in town, which I'm sure a ton of you have, and I have a ton of like overall green pictures. This is where I have drawn the squares around something. I'm just going to add one just for example. Oh, actually, I don't want to put that there. I want to put this here. could just straight zoom in, but figured I would jump to it. For something like this whole entire complex, I have done the squares, and it will stay square this way. You can't turn it and have it go this way easily. But you can kind of stretch it out. You can pull this out and kind of move it around where you need it to go. So I know that whatever I'm talking about is in this spot. So it'll come up as that block. That's a little bit bigger. Once you get into like the whole entire town, that's where it's not going to be as useful for it to show up on the map. This guy, I fixed that. So we're going to click save here and go back to the subjects. So one of the other things with the subjects, between the geographic names, and we're also talking about Library of Congress headings, we've got things like school buildings, elementary schools for this one, fine. Towns will show up in Library of Congress name authority files as well. So this is sometimes a little bit easier. It'll work differently, but you'll get the same result. So if you look for the Fairfield and town, you'll find it in the subject headings. I don't know if Southport shows up in this, which is an interesting question, since it doesn't show up in the other one. See, it does show up here. So I would be very likely, if I had a Southport picture, to put in that Library of Congress name authority file versus that. One thing when looking up subject headings, so like you might initially want to put in like Fairfield or Southport here, and you're not finding anything because it's a name versus a subject. And you can kind of see the difference. We're going to go back to that old Library of Congress subject heading thing. And it'll say search type, subject name, title, name, keyword. If you just put one in, it'll kind of search everything, but it'll tell you what the what part it's from. Because this is giving you all of your headings over here. This is the graphic materials, subject headings. I don't know that it says names, but you can change it by that. Ooh, great swamp fight. Sorry. That's big in our, oh yeah, see, this is really interesting. Great fight, Southport, Connecticut. Great swamp fight, Southport, Connecticut. This features heavily in a lot of stuff in our collection. So this is something that's good for us to use as a subject heading. And you can tell by the little letter prefixes for these what it is. The SH is subject heading. You'll see an N sometime when you get to a name, if you're not sure which thing it is. I don't know that the old Academy has a heading, but this is one of those, never hurts to look and see. And this really is, yeah, there's nothing really in Fairfield, so that's fine. Oh, I'm also doing keyword. And you will get it if you're not in keyword. Sometimes they'll show up in some of the other ones. And this is obviously pages and pages away from where we want to go because it's just all alphabetical and there's a lot of old age assistance. I don't think, sometimes you will be looking for things that you think there's no way this is going to be in here, but it actually is. So it never hurts to look. Apparently there's an Ogden house in Utah, which is interesting because that's what our old house is in Fairfield. And I don't think, I meant to look for like a house name that showed up. Oh, but this one, for instance, Burr Mansion, Fairfield, Connecticut. If we look in this guy, this is a subject heading, that's fine. If you're looking for it and it doesn't show up, try under names and see. I'm going to see if we have any images of that. So we've got Burr Mansion. We'll see if we put any subjects in for this yet.
Hey, Diane, it's
Yeah.
Rebecca. So
Rebecca.
even though it's the name of a building, we should look under subject headings versus name authority. Is names just mostly for people? Or,
It goes back and forth. It doesn't
Okay.
always make sense.
so try both, maybe?
Yeah, try
Oh.
both if you're not finding it in one, because sometimes it's just automatic to do the subject headings and as like the overarching thing, and
Mhm.
you won't come up with it. And this is kind of to your question from before, Jody. You'll look at it and you won't get something that you think should be a subject heading, but then you go and you're like, oh, you know what? I didn't look under name. So for our purposes and our systems, try it under name authority and see if it comes up instead.
Okay.
Because I've had that happen like quite often.
Mhm.
In this instance, it's coming up as a subject heading. Great. There's a but, and I wish I could think of some and had a chance to look to give you a really good example of like something that you would think of as a subject, but is actually like a name of a place. I don't think like this works. Just an actual guy. But yeah, if you try it under subject headings and it doesn't show up, because my personal thing would to try Burr Mansion under subject headings, and I know there's definitely things that I've tried that haven't come up and it makes no sense. I don't think this shows up in either one. Yeah, no, I didn't think that would show up. It also is spelled about 18 different ways. This actually really relates to one of the other ones we were going to talk about, which is union list of artist names. So this is a really good one if you've got a working artist that you want to enter in and have it match up with everybody else, because you can put them in your system as an entity and it'll be there, but because you're doing that entry, there can be a lot of wiggle room for how that is entered, and it may not match up with another institution. So it makes it a little bit harder to find on something like the portal. So it just kind of, don't be afraid to like put your artist person in there, because you never know if they're going to show up. And kind of along the lines of the name authority too. Because I know that, oh, I wonder if I had, this kind of goes back into people's names versus place names, even though they both work. There's been a couple places that I've put people's names in because I'm like, they're never going to show up here. They do show up there because we put a bunch of our finding aids on our OPAC, our library page in the town system, because they were connected with Library Congress and everything else. Some of our local names of people will show up there. So it never hurts to search for somebody that's like a big deal in your own community, because it may show up. And I got myself off track on that. So with the union names, I was going to do, so for instance, in Fairfield, I'm not going to put the number in because I looked it up specifically.
Hey, Diane.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is just my computer, but your screen share, oh, it just came back. Never mind. It was frozen for like a long time,
Oh, weird.
but it seems to have come back. Never mind. Sorry.
Oh, no, you know what? I have two windows open. Hold on. For some reason, it popped into another window. So I was working on a window that you can't see. So thank you for saying that as it fixed itself at the same time. Yes, leave site. We don't want to save any of that. Okay, so I've got this John Trumbull thing. It's an engraving, awesome, of John Trumbull, presumably, going by my record. It was painted by Waldo and Jewett for Trumbull Gallery in Yale, engraved by A.B. Durand. This is a really good example of what you're going to use for subject headings and what you're not, in particular. So for artist names, I do want to put A.B. Durand in there. He's a really good example because there's a couple different ways to mention his name. And if you were doing a entity record and saying that farther down, this is, I don't even think he's in here as one of our entities. No, there's other Durants in there. So I might put him in as Asher B. Durand as a whole person, but I don't necessarily need to. I would actually probably go and copy a Library of Congress heading or something. But for subjects, if we want an artist name in here, I can put him in and get down to, let me do that, A, and narrow this down a little bit, because I know he's here, I saw him before. And I don't, yeah, person's artist, American painter and engraver. We can put him here, save him, and now he'll show up. So that even means I could put him in my system as A.B. Durand and it would show up. But now if we go in and people are looking at who's got what important, interesting artists, what do you have? We have this guy. For in this instance, John Trumbull is an artist in his own right. I'm not going to put him as an artist under artist names because he's not the artist for this thing. However, I'm going to look him up under the name authority file. So he's kind of a topic subject heading versus that. This is also where you have to be careful to put your actual person in. So sometimes you need a little bit of research first to be like, oh, I know it's actually the John Trumbull that's 1750 to 1831, not any of these other guys, because you want to make sure it's that specific guy. I'm not going to put him in because I honestly don't remember which dates it is of which guy, and I actually want to look at the guy because it could be the artist, it could be his father. Don't know, so I'm not going to add this until I'm ready, unless I have it in my record. So any of these you can go through. The painted by Waldo and Jewett, you could probably put them. I think they should be in artist names too. I don't know that I would put them here. That's kind of your own. Decision if you want to do that or not. I can't remember his first name, Waldo's first name. So I would probably look that up before I went and tried to add them. And they may not be in there as a combined person. Oh, there we go. Waldo and Jewett, unidentified people, unknown artist. Well, they are, but it's fine. But that's in there, so I could add them. Actually, I'm for this one just for kicks. Now, does all of that make sense? So we've got other stuff. There's this Jonathan Trumbull. So I can put him in as a subject heading, the 1710 one, as a name. I don't know that he'll show up in, oh, was he H or no? I think he was not an H. And you do have to put these in as it would show up in subject headings. So Trumbull, comma. And he's still not showing up in subject headings, which is, this is our key to go, oh, maybe it's a name because it's actually a guy. And there's a whole bunch of them. And where's my 1710 guy? Right here. So I can put him in there. Going back to the portal for a second. I go to everybody. This is another way of searching and sorting through things. So if I pulled up all the records in the portal and we've got the full results here, a lot of these will show up under these filter by sections. So places like the departments, these are kind of the tied-in systems. These are more subject headings down here. So this is where you get your artist names, specifically artist names. So this is a great place for folks like Mattatuck or Westport Public Art Collection or anybody else that's got like recognizable artists in there. And you can go through and see. And I thought this one had Twain, sure, because he's a name, a big name, not necessarily an artist, but like a known creator. Tiffany and Company's in here, and you can see how many records are attached to these as usual too. Most of them are just like one. We'll see who this guy is. A bunch at Sharon Historical Society, an art print, a couple newspapers. And we can go through to subjects from any of these, like usual, any of these Libraries of Congress names. So it's basically you want to, I'll go to Benedict Arnold's. You want to be specific, but you don't have to be too specific. Now I'm curious what the Powderhorn has to do with Benjamin Arnold. Or Benedict Arnold, Jesus. Okay. Oh, according to legend, belonged to Benedict Arnold. So that's kind of interesting. So for something like that, I definitely would put him in as related people in Library of Congress. So you get that exact heading. So for all the people that have specifically Benedict Arnold related stuff, they can put that up. I would actually put him as in a former owner as well as an entity, as I would with anything, even if he's not famous. If I have the name of the person who used to own it or reputedly owned it, I would put their name in with that as well. Just looking to make sure I don't have anything else that I really wanted to specifically mention. Never hurts to try to search for any places or people or names because you never know who will turn up. Does anybody have questions on any of this or anything else? I'm actually going to stop recording now and we can keep chatting for a bit.